Greetings and welcome to the pod. My name is Mark West. Tim Garrett is an extraordinary athlete. Not content with swimming some of the world's most famous and grueling waterways, Tim tags on runs and rides of hundreds of kilometres to his swims. For instance, Tim has completed the Arc to Arc, which is a run of 87 miles from Marble Arch in London to Dover. Then you swim the English Channel. Then you bike 181 miles from Calais to the Arc de Triomphe in Paris. He is one of only 2 people in the world to have completed the Arc to Arc and Uberman, an event in which you swim 21 miles from Catalina Island to Los Angeles, which is a major event in itself, cycle 400 miles to Badwater Basin, the lowest point in North America, and then run 135 miles through Death Valley before ascending 13,000 feet to Mount Whitney, the highest peak in the continental United States. He plans his own ultra-endurance events, although ultra-endurance doesn't quite sound like the right adjective given the extraordinary nature of these things, through his company Another Level Performance. Apart from Australia's longest open water swim, he has organised Hard Bastard, where you swim 35 kilometres from Palm Beach to North Bondi, cycle 620 kilometres to Mount Kosciuszko, and then run 162 kilometres in the Australian Alps. He fundraises for the Heart Research Institute, and unsurprisingly, he doesn't sleep very much. His major aim is to tackle the North Pole, which is where our conversation started.
My ultimate goal is to do the North Pole and do a solo, unassisted expedition to the North Pole. It's the hardest thing to do on the planet. And when I tell you how hard it is, you'll understand. So more than 2,000 people have swum the English Channel. More than 30 people have now solo, unassisted to the South Pole. More than 5,000 people have climbed Everest now. More than 30 people have solo sailed around the world. 12 people have walked on the moon. How many people do you think have done a solo, unassisted expedition to the North Pole?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I'm going to say nobody then, or not many people. One person, right?
One.
Yeah.
And they did it from Russia, a Norwegian.
Yeah.
He did it in 2004, I think. So I want to do it from Canada or Greenland, and if I can't, I'll have to do it from Russia. But that's history-making stuff. You know, it's Scott and Amundsen stuff.
Wow, that's awesome.
I've got that on my website, but it's hidden away because it is what it is. I have to change a few things, but yeah, that's my ultimate goal, to get sponsorship to do that.
What does that involve? So it's an awful lot of trekking, I guess. I mean, you do a lot of cycling as well and a lot of swimming, but I guess it's mostly trekking. That would be, or do you have to do any ice swimming?
Look, have you seen my YouTube videos where I do some going across? They're called open leads.
Oh, I saw
where was I? Greenland, Iceland. I was in Iceland, and I put an immersion suit on.
I saw the immersion suit. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy. That was at the bottom of a glacier in Iceland, just practicing what it's like to go across the lead. So what happens with Arctic ice, it's continually moving in a anti-clockwise direction, and it's influenced by currents and wind. So you've got a thing called the Arctic treadmill in the North Pole, which is, the North Pole is different from the South. South is on a bed of rock, whereas North Pole is a floating ice pack, and it rotates around, influenced by ocean currents and by the wind. And as you go along and traverse towards north, and hopefully, as you progress, you'll do 10 or 12, 15 kilometers in one day, and then when you wake up the next morning, you've gone back 3 or 4. And then you start again, and then you go back again, because that's how quickly the ice moves.
Oh, wow. So that's incredible.
it's incredibly difficult.
It's
That's
incredibly
why no one's done it.
Yes. And so where would you start from?
I'm planning to hopefully start from the top of Canada. There's a number of logistical problems about doing this. And one is actually getting to the top of that island to be able to start your traverse across to the North Pole.
Okay.
The costs are extravagant, but they all go to fuel. It's $200,000 US. You don't understand why I'm doing the things I do, is to show and demonstrate that if anyone can do it, I've got the resume behind me in terms of fitness and polar experience and mountain experience.
Wow, that is an incredible cost as well, isn't it? So that's mainly fuel, because you can't carry that much food on your back.
Yeah, the food. I've got the figures here. Let me just. It's 30 liters of fuel, which is 30 kilograms of fuel.
Right.
Then you've got, I think, about another. I think there's another 70 or 80 kilograms of food, because your calorie intake is absolutely massive. Yeah.
Wow.
Massive.
And then everything you wear as well. I mean, you're dealing with the cold. So that's
you're dealing with temperatures between minus, if you're lucky, minus 20, but that's warm, to minus 70 degrees Celsius.
That's incredible. So how do you train for this? So you've been to Greenland and Iceland and Antarctica
Greenland,
as well.
Iceland, Antarctica. I've done South Pole expedition. I go to the Arctic almost every year, either Canada or Greenland or Norway, Finland, and Sweden. So I've done traverses of all of those areas.
That's incredible. So you've seen an awful lot of the world. Do you prefer doing the cold stuff? Or I know you've done a lot of, like, not frozen things as well, but warm areas, running through deserts and all the rest of it.
Yeah, I ran across the Kalahari Desert, a staged race, 260 kilometers. It was the hottest, I think, was 52 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty hot.
So your body still likes you somehow. That's incredible.
I smash it, but I look after it.
Yeah. So what got you into it? Where does this desire for going as long and as hard as you can come from? Where does the love of endurance sports come from?
Look, I ended up splitting up with my wife in late 2008, 2009, and then in 2010 a girlfriend persuaded me to start running. And at that point, I was a gym junkie, and I was, it'd be fair to describe myself as a meathead, the complete opposite of an endurance athlete or a runner.
Okay.
I literally had to change my morphology from, being a 100-kilo man and eventually getting down to between 80 and 82 kilos as a runner. So this girlfriend of mine, ex now, but she introduced me into running. We said we were going to train up for what was then the North Face 100K in the Blue Mountains, and that was in 2010. And we trained up, and we thought we'd do 50 each, and we ended up doing the 100K each.
Wow, it's not an entry-level race. That's
no,
pretty
it's not.
tough.
No. Yeah. No, it's a very hard race. But it was enough to give me the running addiction that I actually got, and I ended up running. I've run everywhere. I've run on every continent. So doing ultras.
Did you find that difficult? Because I imagine to run ultra marathons, you don't want to carry much weight, but then when you swim and you've swum 40, 50 kilometers in one go, it actually helps to carry a little bit of extra weight, extra fat for the, just for endurance, but also to keep you warm. How does that work, doing the extremes of both sports?
It's a unique transition to change your morphology from being a meathead, a bodybuilder, and go from fast twitch muscle fiber to a slow twitch endurance runner. And I'm going to tell you that I'm not a fast runner, but I can just keep on going because of the way I'm wired. You have to be stoic and be tenacious to be an endurance athlete. You need to be able to separate, the pain and continue and really displace yourself from the reality, which is you go through those phases of when you're doing endurance of what the hell am I doing and why am I doing this, to, I'm doing this because I've set goals and I create a strategy and, I ultimately want to achieve this. And that's part of the journey. I've gone on from being an ultra runner to an ultra cyclist. And as you know, I came back from South Pole in 2015. And I was mooching around carrying an injury, a groin injury from going to the South Pole. But I recovered, and a friend of mine was running from, he was doing the USA Ram race, running across America, running from LA to Boston. And 2 weeks outside of Boston, I called him up and I said, hey, his name's Jupp Brown. I said, Jupp, do you want to run back? I'm okay now. I've recovered. And straight away he said no. But then 2 weeks later he phoned me up and said, I won't run with you, but I'll cycle across Canada with you. And I'm very decisive. It takes me a split second to work out whether I can do it or what do I need to do. And I just turned around and said, yes, I'll be there. And a week later I was there. I met him in New York, and then we traveled down to go and get the bikes, and then we cycled up. And eventually I had to leave him because I realized my visa was going to run out. So I ended up cycling across Canada by myself from the East Coast across the West Coast, which isn't the norm, and I didn't know it at the time. Normally you go from West Coast to East because it's easier and you've got the wind behind you.
Yeah.
So East Coast to West, all in all, I did about 15,000 Ks. It was a long ride, but it was great. I cycled across from St. John's, Newfoundland, which is the most easterly point of North America continent, to Vancouver. I ran out of time. Because I was planning on cycling from there over to the island and then coming back onto the mainland and then cycling down to LA again. But I just ran out of time. I slept on the side of the road with a little one-man tent. It was great. One of the best things I've done. And
you'd cycled before this? Like you were a pretty good cyclist? Or did this all happen on the spur of the moment at that phone call?
No. I was cycling. I had been doing triathlons.
Okay.
But, that was the longest distance I had been doing, 180. And then that was another transition phase for me, because going from being heavily muscle set and then changing my morphology to, and losing 20 odd kilos. And then it took a long time to get into a good place where I could be comfortable running, 10 or 12 Ks an hour. But my usual pace would be on a long ultra would be around the 8K mark. Yeah. And that's not particularly fast. And of course, with the big hills, you'd be anywhere between walking pace and 4 and 6 Ks an hour. So, yeah. The transition from, my story goes that I was running and then I moved over to cycling and ultra cycling, and something I really, really enjoy. Both of those I really enjoy. And then I decided, you know what? I'll put them together and I'll do this thing called the Arc to Arc. And I put my application in, but they just couldn't fit me in. So I thought, sort it, I've come this far. I'll get ready for it and I'll do it by myself. And so in December 2015, I joined Vlad Swim Group, which is in Sydney.
Yep.
And he's a well-known, well-respected marathon swim coach that's based at ABC Pool down at Woolloomooloo.
Yep.
But he also coaches at another places. And I gave myself the 6 months to prepare for the channel, like you do, never having gone further than 8Ks in the swim. and that's how I started doing these ultra endurance things. Again, your original question that you started off was, how did you make that? How can your body cope with those things? And the transition to go from runner, cyclist to swimmer is easier than the transition and the morphology change that you have to go through from being a bulky swimmer to a marathon runner or a cyclist. I don't know of anyone that's done that, and everyone that I know that does do or has done the Arc to Arc or the thing called the Uberman in America has done it and started the same way, where you build up from an endurance runner, and you're in a niche group. It's, a triathlete would not be able to do marathon swimming because you just have to bulk up so much to carry that extra energy and be broader in the back and bigger shoulder set. For men, not for women. Women have a distinct advantage because genetically they're superior in terms of endurance, and definitely in swimming. The way their morphology set, their fat content is much superior, which is beneficial, and particularly the brown fat. Women have more brown fat content, which is better in the application for endurance sports because it's used for both keeping you warm, which is an advantage in swimming, and also energy release.
So how do you find the ice swimming then? Because that's where, if the extra fat is good for endurance, you really need it for the heat. How do you go in the ice swimming?
You know what? I actually thought, it's beneficial to have the fat, and it is. But I've seen some amazing things with people that have been, very lean. They're not overly obese or overweight, or they're. You would look at them and go, they're an athlete, and they haven't had to have that content of fat that we think that you need as a seal or a walrus or for swimming in cold. It's acclimatization and preparation, and the amount of preparation and acclimatization that you have to do for ice swimming is, there's a lot, and I've only just started. I started beginning of this year to get ready to do this, and I started it because I was getting ready to swim the Cook Strait, and I'd been waiting. I lodged my application to swim the Cook Strait 2 years. Marathon swimming, there's a bigger timeline for actually getting your locking in your booking for your boat to go across any of the channels.
Oh, so I knew that for the English Channel, but I didn't know about that for the Cook Strait. The Cook Strait's even longer, isn't it? No, it's not longer. Or is it? I can't remember now. Look, I've done. What have I done? Four of the 7 Ocean Sevens channel swims. The Ocean Sevens are a series of channels that they deem as the hardest channels in the world, but obviously there are others that I've found, and marathon swimmers agree that some of them are absolutely epic. But and they can be found on the Marathon Swimmers Federation website. Look on that, you'll see some epic swims there. But the Ocean 7 and Red Bull have grabbed that and said, these are the hardest channel swims in the world. They include I'll go by the hardest, which is the North Channel, which is between Scotland and Ireland. You start off at Ireland, and it's the hardest because it's cold. It can be anywhere between 8 degrees and 14 degrees if you're lucky. But it's got these great big jellyfish there called main line jellyfish, and they're huge stingers. I know them. Yep.
Yeah, they're nasty. And then the second channel, hardest channel, is the Cook Strait. So I can tick that one off. Then the next one is Molokai, which is Hawaii, between the two islands, Oahu and the other island, can't remember. That's the third one. Fourth one, I think, is Segura Strait, which is Japan. Then fifth one is English Channel. Sixth one is Catalina Island off California. And the seventh one is Gibraltar Strait. I've done the English Channel twice. I failed the first time because it was 10 degrees. Swam for 10 hours. It just killed me. The second one I've done Cook Strait this year. I've done Gibraltar in 2017 2018, and I did Catalina in 2017. Yeah. Next year I'm doing Molokai, and the year after I'm doing a double English Channel swim.
Oh, wow. That'd be fantastic.
When I say I'm doing those other channel swims, so what I put together is I do my swim, the channel swim, and then on top of that, I'll put a long bike ride and a long run on the top of that. There are only two races in the world right now that where they have those conditions. And one of them is the Arc de Triomphe, the English Channel. So you run from London to Dover, 130 kilometres. Then you swim the English Channel, 21 miles, which is around 32 kilometres. But with currents, it fluctuates. And then 290 kilometre bike ride from Calais to Paris. So I've done that. The other one is Uberman, which is in California. It's a swim from Catalina Island to the mainland, which is 21 miles, about 32k. It's a little bit longer with currents. Then you follow up with a 400-mile bike ride, which is 640 kilometers through the Mojave Desert and the mountains in California. And then you run 135 miles, which is, I think it's 235k. A famous race, it's called Badwater. It's through Death Valley. It's one of the lowest places on Earth, below sea level, 200 feet below sea level. It's seriously hot, and it's one of the hardest races in USA. So I've done those two, and I'm one of two people in the world that have done those. I then came along and said, right, okay, I'm going to put some other things together. So I did Cook Strait this year. Swam Cook Strait, then I cycled the South Island through the mountains because there's two ways you can go, and I chose the hard way, of course. And then I ran to Queenstown. Now, my original intent was to try and run from the North Island all the way along, do the swim, and then do the whole South Island cycle. But logistically impossible with the way that you have to wait for the boat and the opportunities for swimming the Cook Strait. It's such a difficult swim. It's really choppy, and it's a difficult finish. And not many people have done that swim. 113 or 115 people, I think, have done it maybe this year.
That's incredible.
Yeah, in total, yeah.
Imagine doing the entire length of New Zealand. That's incredible.
Yeah, well, that was my intention, but unfortunately I ran out of time because I've set up Australia's longest marathon swim to date. Well, it won't be soon, but it's 26 kilometres, and I'd set up that race, and I had to come back for it, so I had to cut short my New Zealand adventure or endurance race, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I consider them adventures because they're fun, just completely fun. But I had to come back early. I'd run out of time. I had to wait so long for the boat and the opportunity for a break in the weather and to swim the Cook Strait. It is what it is, but you have to wait. You have to be patient. And so, I had to cut that short, and I didn't do what I wanted to do, but sure enough, it's still seriously long, 8,000 meters of elevation. Yeah, you have to look on my website, timmygarrett.com, to see what's
it's incredible. And you've also got, so there's Another Level Performance. Is that your company?
Another Level Performance is a company that I've set up, and it's basically to help promote marathon swimming in Australia. I have got so far 2 races that I have set up for Palm Beach to Shelley, which is in New South Wales, this year it will be a 27-kilometre swim. And there'll be a 10-kilometre component as well, where you can start from Narrabeen and finish at the same point as the 27-kilometre swimmers. That'll be end of March this year.
That'd be a beautiful swim, especially if you breathe to the right.
It's a fantastic swim. It's really good. This year it's a sharky swim. It's not without its element of danger. But when you swim a lot, you'll become accustomed to seeing some big animals in the water.
That's interesting. So you reckon you'll see some sharks?
This year there was about 6 sharks that we ran into and had problems with, and had to scare them off.
Oh, right.
Because of what happened this year, I had to change them, make it a bit more stricter on the rulling with how the proximity of your support. Mm-hmm. Normally, when you swim across the channels, you have a boat, usually within 20 meters of you. Some of them you have a kayak, others you don't. You don't have a kayaker for the English Channel. I didn't have one for Gibraltar. I didn't have one for Cook Strait. You have one for Manhattan Island. I swam around Manhattan Island this year, in June. And then I followed up. Manhattan Island is a 48-kilometer swim. And then I cycled up to Boston and then across the state to Albany, and then ran 145 miles down the Hudson River. So that's a world first. I've done 3 world firsts this year in terms of new events, which is good fun.
That's incredible.
You could argue that I'm a pioneer and I'm setting the bar, and I'm hoping that other people will follow. But again, it's a unique morphology and in terms of your physical presence and your ability. Marathon swimming is definitely a difficult gameplay and an introduction into endurance events.
Yeah.
When you add on bike and swim, yeah.
It can't be cheap. You must go through a lot of gear and just even getting places. But I guess you sleep by the side of the road, so that's one. You save on accommodation.
Yeah, actually interesting enough, the Canada ride across Canada, I think it was 56 days, and that was the cheapest of all the things I've done. Yeah, to do a marathon swim, there's a lot of money involved. You pay for boats. I mean, you were talking between, usually between $5,000 and $10,000 for a boat.
Yeah, I've heard that about the English Channel. It's not super cheap just for boats.
Yeah, look, just for the boats, it's around, I think, from memory, $6,000 or something. Yeah.
Okay. And
yeah, 5,000 or 6,000. Yeah.
And tell us about the beautifully named Hard Bastard.
Okay, so Hard Bastard, because there are only 2 formal races in the world for ultra endurance, I've set up this one in Australia, and it will be a swim from Palm Beach to North Bondi. So we're talking a 40-kilometer swim.
Yeah, that's a long way.
No wetsuit allowed.
Yep.
So that's the first thing. Then there is a 650-odd kilometer ride along the coast to Kosciuszko. So there's about 8,000 or 9,000 meters of elevation on that ride. No assistance is allowed for the bike ride. And then you've got a 100-mile run around the mountains around Kosciuszko. Again, no assistance allowed. And that's why it's called Hard Bastard.
And this takes...
You really need to have a survival skills to be able to cope with the conditions, because they would be so varied in the mountains with the run. Yeah, very difficult.
What are the rules around sleeping? You obviously can't do all of that in one go. I mean, can you? People must stop and sleep.
No. You literally you can't. After. So my training, I train for failure when I'm getting ready for something, because it's the only way I can learn and practice and develop and be stronger when it comes to the time of me actually doing what I wanted to achieve. So when I was getting ready for the English Channel, I did Rottnest first, of course. And Rottnest, I did a 65-kilometer run beforehand. Then I swam Rottnest, and then I did a 120-odd K bike ride.
Rottnest is not that big.
So
Just done a few laps.
Yeah. No, on the mainland.
Okay.
So that's the sort of training that I did for the English Channel, for the Arch to Arc. I then there's a swim race down in Canberra on the lake there in December, which is a 9K swim. And so for other events, I've cycled down the Hume Highway to Canberra, then did my 9K swim, and then did another 9K swim on top of that. So 200K bike ride, or 220-odd-K bike ride to Canberra from Sydney, and then do the swim afterwards straight away. That was an experiment because I wanted to know what it would be like, and lo and behold, I discovered a weakness because of the position of my shoulders and from riding and then going into the swim. And likewise the other way as well. It's such a huge impact on your shoulders, either one of them. When you ride, you use your shoulders a lot, but also when you swim, of course, you use your shoulders a lot. And so I had to work out how to fix that problem because my swim was 4 hours after doing a cycle for 220 odd Ks, and I'd swum that race before in 3 hours, and so I had to fix that problem. So the following year I went back and I did the longer course where I cycled down the high-blasted course and up to Canberra, so plenty of elevation, and that was a 400K bike ride, and then did the 18K swim. But my initial swim, the first part of the swim, was an hour shorter because I'd fixed up I corrected what I needed to do for my shoulders, which was simply making my handlebars longer, wider.
That's a considerable saving just on a small fix.
Yeah, it's a small fix, but trying to work out what the problem was, it took a little while to work out. But that's what I do to work out. I test the system and then make sure I'm capable.
Yeah. How do you do nutrition through all of this? If I imagine you've got to carry your food for most of these events. Are there space bars? How does it work when you're going that far? You must get sick of gels.
I don't do gels. I do maltodextrose powder, mix it up in juice, and basically there's plenty of petrol stations along the way for this hard-blasted race where you can pull up and go and eat whatever you need to eat. So, yeah, that's not a problem. That won't be a problem.
Okay.
Despite being self-sufficient, there's plenty of opportunity to feed.
Okay. Does self-sufficient mean you can check into a hotel in Goulburn? Or
Yeah.
You just got to get, as long as you don't get in a car, you can get there however you like. Okay, cool.
Yep, no car, no support, no electric bikes. You've got to have the right configuration on your bike for a long bike ride like this. It's very hilly. You're going to be completely tired from a 40K swim. It's because that's long. Yeah, by any standard.
You do a lot of fundraising as well.
Yeah. Look, about social responsibility and, having the opportunity to represent charities and create awareness and raise money. So I think that's a good thing. I don't necessarily raise a lot of money, but I definitely help make people aware of causes. And yeah, it's one of those things.
And what's next?
Hard-blasted in January.
So it is actually going ahead.
Yeah, oh yes, yeah. I'll be doing it. I think there's a guy from New Zealand who's a bit of an athlete who's done Enduroman and has actually won a few times. So I think he's up for it, and possibly one other person. There's, you know what, not everyone can step up and do this type of thing. It's physically exhausting. Marathon swimming is difficult by any standard, and when you follow up with a bike ride and a run, well, you're talking, less than 50 people in the world could do it.
Yeah.
yeah.
It must be, I mean, there's the physical side of it, but the mental side of it must be quite taxing as well. It must be very taxing. I mean, I know the human body can actually go for a long time just physically, but mentally, most people can't. How do you train your mind for this? Is it just practice?
100%. It's just practice. I've done that many endurance races with running that you learn to find yourself. And I've been in very uncomfortable conditions, particularly in the Arctic. That's why when I went up to the Arctic and I did a race. It was at the top of Canada, and I signed up for the 120 miler with the option of doing 350 miler. And I thought, okay, I'll be able to go on 350 miler. But I got to the end of the 120 miler, and I came second. But I sat down at the end of the race, and I went, that was so hard. That just absolutely knocked the wind out of me. It was so difficult. Technically, there were so many things to look after, with the cold, with the wind, with frostbite. It's literally just knocked me off my feet, and I absolutely love this. And that's how I never intended to be a polar adventurer, but that's where I went, you know what, I want a piece of that action. That's what I want to do. I never intended to be an ultra runner or an ultra cyclist. I was, happy going to the gym, but, things change along the course of, your journey, and life's short, and you realize, you've got to have as many experiences and adventures as possible.
Is there anything, I mean, apart from the clothes you wear, is there anything particularly different between running across the desert compared to running through the Arctic?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. In the desert, you're wearing minimalist clothing, and you're protecting yourself from the sun, and you're watching dehydration, and that's basically it, and you maintaining your energy. But you're going lightweight, and in cold conditions, it's the complete opposite. You have to monitor whether you're going too hot or too cold, because if you're heating up, then you're sweating, and then you're losing too much body heat, and then because of the cold, you can end up getting frostbite, and frostbite is a horrible thing. It's very painful. And then if you're too cold, you can end up having hypothermia. And again, I mean, I've had hypothermia a few times, and I can tell you that's uncomfortable as well.
Yeah, it's not known as a fun experience.
No. And the thing about the cold is that you have to carry all your kit, and you have to layer. And, it is a strategy game. I mean, I've been warm running down Everest, and just a minute, obscure thing and lack of attention to detail, and it costs you. And I've had hypothermia running down Everest, and I only just made it back to Namche Bazaar with severe hypothermia. And I was lucky, and I was out cold for 4 hours. I passed out. And it was just because I was running through the clouds, and I didn't layer up correctly, and I just got extremely cold. So it's, you learn from inexperience and gain tacit knowledge with all the things that you collectively put together.
Yeah.
So, it's unique. Yeah. Cold is extremely difficult because you have to carry so much stuff. You're burdened with weight, you're burdened with cold, you're burdened with the wind, poor conditions, visibility. In deserts, it's the opposite. You're going light, and your main problem is water and hydration, and of course fuel. But technically, it's not as difficult. I don't think, personally, in my experience.
What's your decision making like when you're under such stress? I know in low oxygen there's actual effects on your brain, but if you're under such stress, having done such put your body through so much, do you make good decisions, or how does it work?
Yeah, I've made good decisions because of experience of making such many bad decisions.
Right.
And I've made many bad decisions because I've tested myself and looked for failure and finding fault in what I do. So I've come off a run in the Kalahari, and a week later I was running in the rim across the in America, what's the big canyon there? What's it called?
The Grand Canyon? Not that one. That's probably
Grand
not
Canyon.
The
So I
Grand
was
Canyon,
running. No. Yes, I was running the Grand Canyon, and I got a massive headache, and I couldn't work out why. And I was really slow running. I thought, oh, it must be due to the Kalahari. It was actually due to altitude. I had a bit of altitude problem at 8,000 feet, and I couldn't work out why. Eventually, I worked it out, and from there, I went on to the next race, which was altitude, because I thought I corrected it. And again, at Leadville, which Leadville 100 mile is an altitude, and that's at 12,000 feet. I eventually corrected that when I ran up Everest. I went above base camp, but I literally got above base camp within 3 days from Lukla, the airport where you arrive, which is unheard of. But I did a lot of altitude training to correct it, those problems. So it's just learning from experience what to do.
Yeah, right.
So, as an athlete, an endurance athlete, I've developed and looked to correct things. So I started off as a wetsuit swimmer for the Arc de Triomphe, and I did the same thing again. In all my training, I was training with wetsuits hopefully to improve my swimming. And I've gone and improved it. And so for Arc de Triomphe, I did a wetsuit swim across the channel, and then I did Catalina and wetsuit training, and then I started focusing. I was always focusing on improving my stroke and my style of swimming, both in terms of speed and in efficiency. And I haven't got there yet, and by no means have I. But I swam Cook Strait without a wetsuit, and I swam Rottnest without a wetsuit. I swam Gibraltar without a wetsuit, and Manhattan Island without a wetsuit. And I've also then gone from, okay, no wetsuit, I'm slightly faster, I'm slightly better. Now I've got to get accustomed to the cold, and that's how I've been developing. So I'm looking for ways of improving as an athlete. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, there aren't too many challenges left. I guess the North Pole is the final goal.
Yeah, that's my bucket list. I mean, I'm doing all these. I've got Molokai booked for next year, and a seriously difficult run. I think only 2 people have done it. The ridgeline is literally less than a meter wide of the volcanic ridgeline, and it runs between 55 and 70 miles along the length of the island. But I think only 2 people have done it. So it's a seriously hard run after doing a 48-kilometer swim, and that's a seriously hard swim because you're fighting the currents and you're trying to compete with the tide. So, yeah, and then, you have the shark problems as well.
A bit of a shark problem, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm going to try and cycle across after I finish the run, try and cycle across from one island to the next island across the sea. So,
okay.
So yeah, I am looking for that's Molokai. So that'll be my 5th channel. This year, I was going to go and book North Channel and do that in 2021. But look, a lady called, I think her name is Sarah Thomas. She just swam the English Channel 4 times. She's just changed the whole landscape of swimming, marathon swimming. So an absolute unbelievable feat of endurance. First person to do it. That is epic in terms of endurance.
And that was non-stop as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's equivalent to the guy running the 1 hour 59 and 40 seconds marathon.
Mm-hmm.
You can't take that away from them. That's an incredible feat of endurance. Too bad. And just a few days before that, a guy called Cameron Bellamy, he did a massive swim, which was, I can't remember how many hours. It was 100 and something stupid hours. An incredible swim. Yeah. So there's some amazing athletes out there, endurance. Yeah. So I've got, North Channel on my radar. Because of what she did this year, less than a month ago, I changed it and I thought, okay, you know what, I'll do a double arch to arc. And I'd been trying to deal with the French government and applied for, 4 times I've applied for doing a double channel swim. And you're not allowed to do a double channel swim. I wanted to do a double arch to arc, so run from London to Dover, swim the channel, cycle to Paris, get to Paris, cycle back to Calais, swim the channel, and then run back to London. You can't do that. You can only do a double channel swim or multiple channel swims if you are less than 10 minutes on the beach when you arrive at Wissant in France.
Right.
That's the French law. So I came up with a scenario with Edgar Etty and Chris Etty from Enduroman in England, and I said, how does this gel with you? I've already applied. I'm not getting anywhere with the French government. Can I do a double channel swim, then do my double bike ride and double run? And they said, no one's done it. We're happy to have you on board. We'll sanction it. So yeah, so that's what I've done.
Okay.
That'll be difficult.
that'll be amazing.
Yeah, my program is just to build bigger shoulders, get in the gym, build bigger shoulders, and just improve my swimming and try and get faster. That's what I've got to do.
You must consume about 100 kilos of food a day. You must be burning calories like crazy.
Yeah, no. So when I get ready for one of my events, literally about 2 months out, it'll be a kind of milkshake that I make up. I don't do dairy when I call it a milkshake. It's so it'll be. I always have either black currants or blueberries, and then I'll have a banana in it, and then I ground up porridge oats. This is all in a blender, and then I'll have either soy milk, almond milk, or just plain water, and then I will have between half a cup and a cup of either rice bran oil or grapeseed oil. And the reason is for the oil is because your calories or kilojoules is twice as much as a sugar. So 34 kilojoules, I think it is, compared to 17 for fat oil. So I can gain between 2.5 and 3,000 calories just for breakfast in that drink.
Yeah. Okay.
And the good thing is it lowers your cholesterol as well. Okay. So my cholesterol level, you can't go, but you have to treat this endurance as a science, and so you work out what's right, what's wrong. Your fuel is absolutely imperative, and so is your rest. I mean, I don't sleep much. I find that 4 or 5 hours is enough for me, and then I'm off. When I'm training and getting ready, I'll be up at 3:30. But right now, I have a lie-in, and it's 3:45. I get up, then I do my stretching. Then I go for a run, 10K run, come back, then I'll bike ride to the pool, do between a 3.5 and a 5K set, and then off to work. When I'm doing cold stuff, I know the swim's going to be cold, I'll do a cold plunge at lunchtime, and then go to work, back to work, and then I'll finish work between 6 and 7, come home, do the kids, and then go off training again, either a bike or a ride at night time. Finish around 10 o'clock at night, go to bed between 10 and 11 o'clock.
Wow, that's a massive day. You're cramming a lot of lifetimes into one.
Yeah, but you know what? Life's short, and I've seen some amazing people who burn the candle at both ends, and I've seen people that have lost the use of their limbs, and they look at me and they go, you know what? If I were you, I'd be doing the same thing. We don't take advantage of what we have,
yep,
and we're able to do, and that's a sad thing.
Do you have a favourite experience or swim experience or just endurance experience?
The Cook Strait was my hardest swim to date. And I really trained for that. I really trained for the cold, and I really trained my shoulders for the choppy, because it's a really choppy swim. It was a really difficult swim. You'll see on my YouTube channel, if you go to my website, timmygarrett.com, you'll see my YouTube, and you can see how difficult that finish on that swim was. It took 8 goes and in pitch dark to touch rock, because that's what you have to do to have the swim validated. But yeah, the Cook Strait, I was stoked about doing that, finishing that second hardest channel swim. Yeah, and then the last month I just did my Ice Mile qualifier, and that is the hardest swim I've done.
Right.
Harder than any other swim. It's just, yeah, I really enjoyed the degree of difficulty, the amount of commitment you have to make, the sensation at the end. Yeah, unbelievable. I had hypothermia for an hour after doing my Ice Mile qualifier. It's basically you have to swim in water that's less than 5 degrees. I was up in the snowy mountains and found some 2 to 3 degree water and did my swim with watchful eye of Ben, who's a marathon swimmer. And he helped me out and got me to recovery point. So yeah, and I could feel myself sinking. When you go into that kind of temperature, within the space of 3 minutes, you've lost all feelings in your hands and your feet, and then your legs start to go. You get the claw. Swimmers get the claw when their hands get cold, and where you physically can't open your hands, you look like a lobster claw with your hands. I was just clenching that, and then eventually your legs start to sink. My shoulders were just completely blown out. I don't think I've felt more tired in any other swim. I can't compare any other swim. Like when I did the English Channel, I got to the end and I went, there was no jubilation. It was just, I wonder if I could do a double. And that's where straight away I started applying to the French government for a double channel swim. But the shoulders, they were just, I felt like I ran into a brick wall after doing an Ice Mile swim qualifier.
Wow.
1,000 meters, less than 5 degrees, seriously difficult. Very, very difficult. Only, Australia's got Wyatt as the number 1 Ice Mile swimmer, Tara Diversity up in Queensland, Ben and Sam Penny. So, yeah, we've got 4 Ice Mile swimmers in Australia. I think I'm the only one who's done a qualifier. So, 5 of us. I've been waiting, but we just didn't get around to it. So I'll have to wait till next year.
The videos were very cool. Excuse me, taking the camera underwater and then swimming underneath the ice. That made me a bit anxious, actually. I was like, come up, please.
just great fun. I mean, I literally this weekend I went up to the snowy mountains. There's still cold water up there coming down, and I swam in the cold. It's less than 5 degrees up in the dam up there. And then I came back down yesterday from the mountains, and today I was swimming off Coogee and around the island off Wedding Cake Island.
A little bit different. Yeah.
Where else can you do that in the world?
Yeah. Can you actually get a full mile in the snowy mountains when you do the full ice mile? Is there anywhere where you can swim that far?
Yes. Yeah, you can. Yeah. Yes. But normally they don't do long distances because when you come out, I'll send you the link. I'm actually making a video, so I haven't exposed it, or it's in private mode, but I'll send it to you just for your eyes only. When you see what I went through, you'll just go, this is another level of crazy.
Yeah. You've been through a number of different levels of crazy in this conversation, I've got to say.
One of the craziest moments, I was in the Arctic ice, and have you ever seen Ice Road Truckers?
I know the show, yeah.
Yeah, they're in Canada, and they're going along on ice. And I was really fortunate. I'd seen a show a couple of weeks before I went up there to do this race, which was the 350 miler, so 560k run along the ice road. And these trucks are they have a certain weight, and that weight governs their speed, because when they're traveling along, if they go too fast, it can end up cracking the ice. And so what happens is, it's like a bow wave that pushes in front and surges underneath the ice as the truck's going along. And I could feel, way before I saw the truck or heard the truck, this wave coming under the water flowing under the ice. And we're not talking thin ice, we're talking 6 to 8 foot thick ice.
Yeah.
And when the truck came through, the ice literally cracked and just went up. I went up there a meter up in the air, and straight away I went into surfing position, going, which way am I going to dive if the ice cracks? So, yeah.
That's not an experience you have every day.
No, it's incredible.
Especially not in Australia.
Yeah, and now I'm having done the immersion suit training in Greenland, and just going into the bottom of a glacier and feeling how cold it is, and now actually being in the position where I can just wear some swimmers, and having done the training and go into the same water, you can see how I've committed in that transition. Everything is a strategy, and you're looking to achieve goals all the time.
Yeah. So when do you think that the North Pole Challenge might happen?
Look, I've got North Channel, and followed by a long bike ride and a long run, and then after that I have Segura Strait, which is Japan, and that was going to be a South Island bike ride up to the top of the South Island, do the swim, and then run up to Sapporo, 350 odd miles or whatever. I'm hoping at some stage that someone's going to pick me up and say, "Hey, we've seen what you do." Without a doubt, it's crazy. Without a doubt, it's unique. No one else is doing it. And I'm hoping that I can become a brand ambassador or representative and get some money my way to support me in doing something that's the hardest thing, as far as I'm concerned, on the planet to do. And like I said to you before, the numbers are something like this. More than 30 people have solo sailed around the world, circumnavigated around the world. More than 2,000 people have swam the English Channel. More than 5,000 people have climbed Everest from both sides. I think the numbers are like 4,500 on the Nepal side, and on the China side it's around 1,600 to 2,000. So it's a ridiculous amount. Then we have more than 30 people have soloed expedition unassisted to the South Pole, and then 12 people have walked on the moon. At the North Pole, only one person has achieved that, solo unassisted, Norwegian, from Russia. I want to go from Canada and do a solo unassisted expedition, but the costs are absolutely extravagant, and we're talking $200,000, and all of that is fuel. That's for a fuel depot and the fuel storage on the plane to be able to pick you up or recover you and rescue you, because you can't get insurance for these things.
Right, of course. So you've just got to have them on standby.
Yeah. So I've got those, and the Arctic, the Ice Mile swim is also to set myself up to do a Ice Mile swim in Antarctica, then do a solo expedition to the South Pole, and then cycle back from the South Pole. I feel comfortable telling people that I'm going to do this because not many people can do an Ice Mile swim in the world. That's one. Two, you have to have the resume and the experience to be able to do a solo expedition to the South Pole. And three, you have to be mad to ride a bike back from the South Pole. So, I've got a number of big projects that I can quite comfortably call mine and
busy yourself with.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds amazing. Yes, I'm pretty sure some of that might align with some adventure companies or GPS trackers or all the rest of it. I think there must be some brands out there that would be interested in that.
Look, it's in Australia, it's just a no-go. There isn't the opportunity. But in England and in USA, I get media coverage in USA. I don't hardly get anything here. So,
I guess we're small. Yeah, I guess we're just small.
Yeah.
Oh, well, at least 10 people will listen to this podcast. So there you go. You never know.
Well, 8, because you and I.
Yeah, that's right. So maybe the CEO of Garmin's listening. Who knows? Thanks very much for listening in to this episode of the pod, and thank you very much to Tim Garrett, one of the more extraordinary athletes I've ever spoken to, for taking the time to take us through his adventures on this episode. If you'd like any more information on anything you heard in this episode, including on Tim's adventures, or maybe you want to sign up to Hard Bastard, get over to my website at www.thepodpodcast.net. That's www.thepodpodcast.net. And there you'll see links to all the music used in this episode as well. My name's Mark West. Thanks very much for joining me. I'll catch you next time on The Pod.